GM, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. And folks, it was a massive week of crypto news last week, and yet price action was lagging a bit, but it caught up this weekend. Majors and alts pumping big time, and now we are asking when all-time highs. We're going to break it all down on today's show. No Froke today, but we got Mando in the house. We got Logan in the house. Gentlemen, GM, how you doing? Mando, not retired. We were unsure. We thought it might be 50-50.
I'm doing amazing, man. How are you?
Doing good. This was a fun weekend, and this morning has been rapid. There's been a lot of news breaking already this morning. My head's been spinning trying to keep up with it, but it was a nice weekend for sure. Logan, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Tyler. Doing well. It's been a while since I've been here, so excited to be back, especially the market in better conditions, I think, than the last time I was here.
Yeah, fun to have you back on. I think we were still speculating on the easy road. I actually want to check back in with you. Is this the easy road? And or when are we going to get on there? We'll talk about it on today's show. Folks, what are we talking about? We're going to get Mando's market report, this big overnight pump. It sold off. It looks like we're grinding back up. Stocks are green. We got CPI tomorrow. ETH Bitcoin flipping green for the first time since January. That was a big one. A huge morning of Treasury code news. Tom Lee and Joe Lubin have been buying ETH like they're running out of chances. LayerZero is trying to acquire Stargate. Memes might be heating back up too. Punk's heating up. And then the back half of our show, we're going to have a conversation with Serpent from Ethos. So it is a big show. Looking forward to that. Before we dive in, shout out to our partners. First up, Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect is the connectivity network shaping the future of on-chain UX. If you've connected to a Web3 app, you've seen Wallet Connect. That blue logo, it's everywhere. An icon of trust in crypto, as recognizable as Visa at the checkout. If you want to learn more, follow at Wallet Connect on X and Telegram to stay ahead of what's next. And Kraken Pro gives active traders exactly what they need: deep liquidity, full customization, and 350 plus trading pairs. Build your own layout with drag and drop modules and trade seamlessly across desktop or mobile. Go to pro.kraken.com and trade without trade-offs. All right, Mando, if you are ready, let's get right into it.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
Yeah, GM, everyone. I am unretired. I've come back out of retirement to these special shows. ETH has broken through 4K. I think it did it on Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was traveling in the end on Friday. So I did already miss the show, but we have smashed right through that 2,300, I think it touched, which is a high since 2021. We're getting close to that all-time high figure, which is around 4,900, I think. And look, I think it's a very high chance that we get there now. It feels like a lot of clean air between us and there, although I reckon it bounces around that all-time high level for a little bit. The rest of the market also looked a little bit strong. So Bitcoin also kind of approached its all-time high. We had Hype move towards close to its all-time high. You had Solana even starting to move. So it was a good weekend for crypto majors, I would say, in general. Crypto market cap also coming close to all-time high, I think, right now. Or is it at all-time high?
I believe it's at all-time high, yeah.
Yeah, it's at all-time high. So
I mean, it hit it overnight probably, but basically,
yeah.
Highs, yeah.
So it's been a good little period. Bitcoin dominance is down at 60.7%. So this strength in ETH is keeping that a little bit under wraps, but Bitcoin still feels pretty strong. I think owning those two, you can sleep pretty well at night. This week, we do have CPI. It's still a little bit of a quiet period, I would say, here in general. For macro, we do have certain geopolitics stuff happening. Trump is meeting Putin. I think it's today or tomorrow in Alaska. A lot of talk about Ukraine there, and maybe an end to that war. But and there was a deal overnight between NVIDIA and the U.S. government where they're going to give 15% of their revenues, their China revenues, basically to the U.S. government. So they're going to start selling chips in China, it seems like, but with the blessing of the U.S. Interesting move that, because I think there was a little bit of there's just been this idea that these chips are already making their way to China. And there's two real strains of thought here. Is it good to make sure all these chips are in Chinese products? Because then you often, it's kind of like defense contracts. Like once you go down one route with one chip maker, you can often be tied into their like style of technology for a long time. So there is an idea that the China almost comes dependent on the US with these sort of chips. At the same time, this probably allows for like copycat firms to come in and build similar products slightly easier. So I think the US has been slightly wrestling with that, and probably knowing that whatever export controls they try and do just delays it. So maybe you kind of embrace it to a certain extent, which I think is what they've done here. They've embraced it with a 15% kicker. So I think that's an interesting deal. I think it's an interesting deal. Let's see where it goes.
The other aspect of that is there's the reaction that it's these companies paying King Trump the toll to do business. Right. And that's a little bit more political. We don't need to get deep into it, but I've seen that. And now Intel stock was down last week after Trump was saying the CEO should be fired. And now it's up 5% because the Intel CEO is perhaps going to go bend the knee today in Washington. And that's Tim Cook from Apple gave him a solid gold. Gave him some piece of gold last week. I forget the exact details. And then Apple stock popped on the back of that. So it is
a bit like that. There's no denying that this is, maybe it's a bit more overtly like that. That's what I would say. Like maybe this was already happening, particularly on the senator level, I think, in terms of lobbying. And this is just bringing it to the forefront on like the presidential level. What I would say is that AI companies are increasingly important for national defense. OpenAI is willing to give all of their chips to the US government, I think, for like free at the moment. Like AI meets defense is basically where this is all headed. And there's going to be a lot of sensitivity around these companies now. They're not just dealing with social media anymore, or like mobile. It's now like, right, well, this sort of technology has the ability to massively impact geopolitics here and allow some nations to go way, way ahead of others in various different forms. So I think you're going to have to see the US government be very close to some of its AI companies now.
Agree.
Away from that, we have CPI this week. Like I said, it's a quiet week. We've had some strength in, well, some of the coins that have been strong before. Really, Hype has been an interesting one to bounce back. That one's kind of back to about 45. That one feels like it has a bit of momentum behind it right now. There's a lot of talk about like when's the time to rotate out of ETH into another coin. I'm still of the view that until proven otherwise, like this isn't a broad base altcoin season, and strong coins will continue to do well, but I don't think it's like buy a basket of alts necessarily. But Hype feels like one which has been strong for a while, so it's an okay bet on. Interestingly, we've seen this LayerZero Stargate buyout, and that maybe moves LayerZero into this kind of more stable coin play. We've seen the Athena continue to rip as its stable coin just went above $10 billion. So maybe that's a continuing like underlying theme at the moment alt, but it's not like it's a super interesting one. It's just like, oh, everyone likes stable coins that have these sort of stable coin plays, and they're doing well, but they're not like unbelievably, not like 10x or anything like that. I thought it was interesting that BlackRock came out and said they're not going to do an XRP or Solana ETF, because I think that for me, as I've said several times in this show, would be the main signal, at least for Solana, that we're ready to do the same thing that we just did for ETH, which is like, right, we're going to ram up the ETFs, TVL, and then we're going to do a bunch of treasury companies. And yeah, I don't really know what's behind that, if I'm honest. Maybe they just feel like they have momentum with ETH right now, and they don't feel the need to spoil it. But BlackRock is the beast when it comes to all these ETF. Like they are the one that essentially is the vast majority of TVL. So I don't know if they're cannibalizing the others, and we'll still see roughly the same amount of TVL go into the Solana ETFs, or if this is like a bit more of an impact.
Yeah, I think maybe let's dig into that for a second. I feel like this was actually one of the more important headlines from the past few days to monitor, specifically, I think, for the ETH trade. I think ETH is the big winner here. I mean, you can make a big case that it's Bitcoin and ETH, and that SOL is a pretty obvious loser, XRP as well. To put this in perspective, if you've been casually following BlackRock's ETFs, IBIT and its Bitcoin ETF and its ETH ETF are two of the top 3 new ETFs that have launched in the past year. And I think they're both in the top 10 of all of their ETF products, or of all the ETF products in the world. They're incredibly successful. We've talked about it at length on the show. It took a long time for the ETH ETFs to ramp up. Part of my bear case for the ETH trade earlier on was that it would be diluted by the SOL ETF when it inevitably launched. And now that's not perhaps on our current radar. And I think that is a really big deal. And I think ETH is the big winner. And I think you can expect to see these types of inflows perhaps continue. And Friday was the 4th biggest day in their history. 460 million, I think, came in overall. Logan, curious if you have any reactions to that.
Yeah, nothing outside of what you shared. I spoke with some analysts last week about the crypto 401k stuff, which I'm sure you guys spoke about on Friday. And they just mentioned, how much benefit that Bitcoin and Ethereum stood to gain. And then potentially, right, would it be Solana or XYZ asset, right, that gets added next to fall in line? But if those things don't transpire, if you don't see those products available as readily, then yeah, I mean, it's just that money's gonna be there, and it's gonna keep flowing to the products that already exist, namely, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I'm right there with you.
And we're seeing it in ETH. We've got ETH up 45% on the month. What's it on the week? 17%. The treasury codes are just booming. Tom Lee's Bitmine is up 25% again today. It was up 25% on Friday and up another 25% today. It's back at 65. Just an absolute monster. If you haven't seen the latest, they have 1.2 million ETH now, almost $5 billion worth. So they are rapidly accumulating. Joe Lubin and crew at 600,000 ETH. They are up 12% today as well. So the ETH treasury codes are reacting quite well this morning. And it seems like the race is on, and they're just going to keep buying. I think SBET's got $900 million on hand to continue buying. I actually don't know what Tom Lee has, but I imagine he's going to be able to keep buying about as much as he wants here for the near future. Mando, how are you thinking about all this right now? I think you've been public. You've got this ETH trade on. We were talking about 4K. We smashed through 4K. Now we're at 4,300. Like, separating like that, there's near term and then there's long term. I'm curious how you're thinking about this near term. Oh, you're muted.
I'm not saying the trade is over, but as a trader, I think that the easier bit of the trade is probably over. So I'm going to be reducing from, well, I've already been setting limits from 4K to 5K, and then I'll reassess. I think I do think it could go quite a bit higher, but it's been a good trade, and I don't want to ruin what's been a good trade. So for me, I'll probably just look for the next trade, which feels like early-ish in the trade rather than the mid of the way through. And I'll probably, if I'm honest, I'll probably move a lot of this into Bitcoin, because I think Bitcoin's just been kind of trending sideways, and I'm still pretty bullish on Bitcoins. So that's what I'll probably end up doing.
Makes sense. I feel a couple of reactions on my side. I feel like the time to be max bullish ETH was here at 2,500, right? And most people were still off sides. And now I'm seeing folks, like, everyone's trying to get into the hyperliquid trade. Everyone's trying to long ETH. And I think it can still definitely go up, especially if these treasury codes are going to keep piling in. but it's more dangerous to put on a 10x long at 4270 than it was at 2500, right? Or 5x or whatever leverage you're using. Just want to put that PSA out there. Because
Sorry, not to interrupt, but I also think you got to consider the numbers, right? Like 10% at 2500 is just shy of 2,800, right? It doesn't feel like that big a move. Now it gets you like 4,700.
Yeah,
that's 10%. Like we're now at double, basically, or close to double what we were at. So you have to like, I think people are ready for it now to move to all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just, I can find lots of trades to make 10% in if that's what the trade is, right? There's so many trades out there which you can make 10% in. So yeah, I'm just a bit more cognizant of not being that person. Like I think Hyperliquid could do a 10% today, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it did one over the weekend.
Right. So I'd rather, and Hyperliquid felt like it was kind of unloved there for a little bit, so it was a good trade. There's a few more of those which I'm kind of like, I'm just peripherally looking at again on majors. I haven't yet decided to get into Solana if that's the thing is. I still don't feel like that's the one. I feel like the easiest one is probably just stay in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin kind of feels unloved a little bit. Back at 120, everyone focused on ETH. Like the whole timeline is backflipped to ETH. It seems.
Yeah.
Or has already gone down the risk curve. The Link Marines are out in force. We've got Ansem, bull posting Link, which I do think is an interesting trade. And I've been thinking about getting in myself.
So what,
missed this.
Why is Link an interesting trade?
Cult community plus buybacks. Plus the chart.
So are they doing buybacks or are they just buying their own treasury? Have you seen what their actual comment was when the buybacks? We are doing off-market transactions to buy back Link. Which makes me think that instead of the Link Foundation just dumping on them, they're just going to create a treasury vehicle to buy back their own bags. Like they're not doing market buys of Link. So
that does change the calculus a little
Link
bit.
also works with bank. Yeah, Link also works with bank, but like the revenue of Link is not. Mm-hmm. It's not a revenue multiple coin, in my opinion. So you either have to think of it like I don't know, like maybe we're all at that point of the cycle. Link is gonna. It may be like I agree with you. Your first point is the right thing. That Link is a bit more like XRP, and there's like this army of people that want to buy it. But and maybe I'm just being a bit negative about it, but don't talk to me about revenue multiples like this or the buybacks, because they literally said, look, we're going to do this off market. I mean,
very fair and good to know. And I did miss the fine print, so I appreciate you filling me in. We have another comment. Isn't pump the easiest trade now? Speaking of buybacks, I mean, I don't know that it's the easiest trade by any means, but it is an interesting trade. It's been doing well, but it's also up 60% off the bottom. For me, the overhang on pump is the airdrop. We still don't know how they're going to do this. And I think that's going to be a very volatile announcement whenever it does come. But the numbers are strong. They're already back at 70% market share. I honestly, I tweeted this over the weekend. I cannot believe how quickly they reclaimed it and how Let's Bonk is now back down to 10%, 14%. Like I thought it would be more of a 30-30 or 40-40 battle there for a little bit. Like they were 80% down to 10% and now back to 80%. And it happened very quickly.
Tyler, have you been following the Pump Fund fees dashboard? They have their own fees and revenue dashboard.
I saw the announcement. I don't have it handy if you have the link.
I can drop it to you. But it gives you the indications of just how much pump they're buying back every single day. I don't have their wallet address to like verify. I can't imagine that they would be lying about this stuff. I'll drop it to you somewhere. But they're buying thousands of Solana worth, or at least they had been. my axes are screwed up now, but worth of pump every single day based on that. So
yeah, let me pull this up. Yeah, these are some serious buybacks. They've been buying back the community tokens as well. Let's take a look at this. They've already put 31 million into this. So yesterday, 15,000 SOL worth of pump yesterday. Wow. What I don't understand is the cadence of all this. Like, it doesn't look like it's necessarily on like a very hard coded schedule, but
right.
Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for that. I'm not sure the team has said anything about that, but this, if anybody is curious about following along, I can't think of too many others who are this, at least thus far, this transparent about exactly what they're doing with the buybacks. If you're really in the buyback meta and you want to be able to follow.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly, I'm not in this trade right now. I misplayed it. It has clearly been very strong off the bottom, and that these buybacks are the clear driver right now. That and their market share going back up. And now folks are calling for meme season. I don't know if you saw this. There was a lot of green on the Solana meme board in the last day, basically over this whole weekend. This Clippy coin up 100% to 25 million. You had the Spark up at 50 million, Tokabu at 64 million. We haven't really had that many runners into the 50, $60 million range post Trump Q1 fallout. Like, there's been a handful that have gotten to 100 million. We had the Boss token run to 40 in a few days. It's now back down. There are signs of life. And I felt like just like a week and a half ago, it felt as dead as it had been. And then it's just totally flipped. And I'm seeing more chatter about it. I don't think there are new entrants. It still feels like the same cohort of folks. So be conscious of that. And I think there's also now a little bit of split with what's happening on Zora. And we'll go there in a second. But there are some signs of life over on Solana. Logie, I think you might be closer to Zora in its ecosystem than me. I mean, this was arguably the trade of the month for anyone who hit it. It's up 15x.
Check those airdrops. Remember, there were all those jokes about your cups of coffee. They are now worth probably 10 or 20 coffees.
You can get a full breakfast.
Yeah. I don't know how much you guys have talked about it on the show, but I mean, the app itself is sort of like a Friendtech / Instagram crossover. That's how I sort of characterize it. Easy download. You can mess around with it, and gives you those creator coins and stuff. It's interesting, and the token launches are no joke. I actually refreshed. I wrote a piece about this last week, but the number 2 creator coin on the platform right now is from Fake Taxi, which is a UK-based porn adult film content company. It's around a $10 million market cap. So we're not seeing incredible runners or anything like that. I think the top one right now is an AI artist around 12 million. But you're seeing tons of tokens created, and you're seeing a lot of people messing around with the platform. And oftentimes that's all it really takes, right? And my timeline, at least, some of that, of course, based on the algorithm, but my timeline is talking about this quite heavily. And the base people, Jesse, they have leaned in and they are championing this very, very hard. And right, it's justified, I guess, based on the performance of the last couple weeks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now's the time to put the full court press on. But there's a bit of a base season happening. So there was also the announcement. I feel like it got kind of slept on. Coinbase said all of the base tokens in their DEX is going to move to the Coinbase app. So basically, everything will be tradable on Coinbase, which has been bullish for Arrow, the main DEX. It's up 50% now on the month, one of the larger movers as well. I think there's broadly green across the base ecosystem. So there's a lot happening. Mando, I kind of interrupted your report. Was there anything else in your report that we need to be aware of here looking at this week or this past weekend?
No, I mean, it's just been ETH really, hasn't it? And some of those stablecoin plays. It feels like the trenches are back. There's been some runners. Anthem's back.
Back. Engagement's back.
Feels like, it feels like people are ready to gamble a little bit more,
It does. It feels like the animal spirits are back, and I'm seeing a lot more folks, the mindset it's time to lock in for the next 3 months.
Yeah. Did you see Alan's tweet from last night or yesterday? He said, I feel like we're going to run back Q4 2024 pump fund trenches soon, but way higher. I mean, like, he's goading people on. These people are, and they've already talked about incentivizing, right? These coins that are launching on the platform. It does feel like some stars aligning at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, he of course would be heavily incentivized for that to happen, but they've also got some firepower to potentially help. So it's the pump game is back. It certainly seems. Well, we're going to get to our interview here in a few minutes with Serpent from Ethos. But Logan, I think arguably the biggest headline from this morning is this whirlwind of Treasury Co. announcements. I tweeted this out, but we had 3 big ones, and the theme is we're going down the risk curve, folks. So this Alt 5 company, $1.5 billion treasury for the Trump WLFI token. A huge number for an alt. I mean, this is already going to be like one of the biggest raises I think we've seen outside of Bitcoin and ETH and SOL for a treasury cost. So that's huge. There's this cast company doing $360 million for IP. And I think A16Z is tied into that. And then there's a meme coin one. So there's a $25 million bond treasury. I'm curious, did you get a chance to look into any of these?
Yeah. So as outlined, I mean, not too much additional to share. Some of these, like as you mentioned, the IP one, that's the story protocol that has some partnership or some inclusion and participation from really notable crypto companies. AI16Z, I think there's some others listed in there. It's like a $220 million pipe with the story protocol token trading at like a fixed $3.40. Yeah. Well, the biggest takeaway for me, Tyler, I mean, without getting into the specific details about how these folks are raising these to add, is that the openings for them have not been received well by shareholders and investors. I think Cask is down like 40%. The SHOT token, which is the bonk one, closer to 50% today. Actually, the World Liberty Fi one, I think, has held up the best, down about 5%. So probably way too early, right, to suggest that none of these will bounce back or that, this is the end of the treasury company thing. But at least in my sphere, most people have surmised that the end of this cycle or, whatever black swanish type thing would come from these treasury companies and the continued move down the risk curve. And when you see stuff like this and you see the immediate lack of performance, just gives you a little bit of pause, a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. So hopefully it doesn't mean too much, but that's the first thing in my head when I see stuff like this.
It does, but in some ways, is it good that if there's not a lot of demand for these, is that?
I think, yeah. Yeah, I do think so. I mean, this is kind of showing, hopefully the market showing like, all right, we understand these assets are not exactly right, the ones that we want to be standing behind. You had some others previously too, right? Like the Doge companies like Origin and other things like that just never really got the steam that some of these others, like even if you go down right to DFDV and those that went to Solana, for example, none of those other companies really got the steam. It's not quite that Long Island blockchain iced tea phenomenon that we saw like last cycle. It just hasn't transpired that way. So I think that is good. Maybe some maturation and folks trying to look to the valid, theses behind something like ETH or Bitcoin as the real vehicles to play with. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, you read the headlines and you can say, oh, this feels top signal-y or whatnot. But then on the flip side, you've got Joe Lubin and Tom Lee. Like they're literally just getting started. They're 2 months in, and they've got pretty significant demand. And yeah, of course, that could dry up in reverse on a dime. Don't necessarily feel like it will. I mean, at this point now, it's got some serious momentum behind it as well, and folks are really feeling that.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of calls for ETH to go much higher, which is another propellant.
I'm sorry, Tyler. The one I shared with you right before the show too, and I haven't refreshed the stock price or anything yet, but the one treasury company I did see that was kind of spinning against all these was the BNB company, which was up like 30% or something That was announced a few weeks ago. I think they might have just finalized the deal, and so the actual purchase of the BNB and everything funded with like 200,000. That was CEA Industries. I can't remember what the ticker is. It's changed at this point. I think it might be BNC. Yeah, there you go. Up 22% today. It was interesting, just as an aside from this, I got a chance to talk with the incoming CEO of CEA Industries like a month ago when they announced this. And I was asking about like what the CEO of a treasury company does, like, you know, what is it? And I thought an interesting responsibility he talked to me about was that just needing to be able to craft the appropriate narrative for investors and stuff, and like actually tell the story about why this underlying asset is important. You know, you're not getting that with some of these announcements, right? Like the Story one from this morning, I think the CEO from Story came out and said some stuff about that. And, you know, and if that speaks to you, it speaks to you. But some of these others, like you're not getting the narrative, and that makes it harder to invest in. I think Tom Lee, Joe Lubin are doing a great job of giving you the narrative and why it actually matters. And you know, much like any other investment that you could easily perhaps be swayed into, like you do have to have that front man and that champion giving you the why. And the ones that don't provide a good one, you know, maybe investors are wisening up to.
I think it's as simple as that. That's such a great point. And to me, there's the big three in the Treasury Coast. It's MicroStrategy, it's with Saylor as the spokesman, it's Tom Lee and Bitmine, and Joe Lubin and Sharplink SBET. And I can't even name a front man for any of the other Treasury Coasts. And I cover this space for a living. And I'm writing about it daily. So if I can't, I can tell you that most other people most likely can't as well. And that would be my advice. Like we had the DFDV team on, a couple months back, and they had a great pitch. But I think my advice to them is like, you need that front man. Like you need the spokesman who can go on TV, on CNBC, and give the pitch. And you also have to keep actively buying, right? So I think DFDV also hasn't really been buying too much.
Yeah.
Which is another part of it.
Well, it's harder as you get down that risk curve too, because the underlying asset is just, you know, CNBC would put on SOL perhaps, but they're probably not going to put on Bonk.
Yeah, they're not going any further down.
Yeah. And they shouldn't yet, probably, right? Like that makes sense. But yeah, I'm with you. I thought that was just an interesting thing, just because we see Saylor. You're right. We see Saylor. We see Tom Lee. We see Joe Lubin, but we don't see the others, and we don't hear from them. And I think it's really important to be able to craft the narrative. Like, why should I buy this versus buying the underlying asset? Why should I do this? Like, if you want to be seen legitimately as an entity and as a potential investor, like, why should I invest in this company? You got to have somebody out there telling the story. Not all of them do, but the ones that are most successful definitely do.
The one interesting one to watch, I think, outside of the big three, will be this World Liberty Fi one. And we also had that Hines resignation to go to the private sector. So I think connecting some dots, is he going to be the front man for one of these DATs? So we'll have to revisit that later this week, because I want to dig more into the WLFI trade, because I think it could be a big one. But we've got SERP in the studio. So I want to make sure that we welcome him. Folks, we are going to get into the second part of our show, talk about Ethos. SERP, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Probably overdue. Well, let's just kind of kick this off, soft open for folks who may not know. Maybe give your quick background, maybe the quick background on Ethos.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey guys, I'm SERP. I run a hedge fund in the space. I was a successful trader in the past. I always did that on the side, and finally found my calling with building, which is what I'm actually professional in. Have spent 12 years building products in Web2 SaaS Bay Area tech company type stuff, and finally found the perfect union between, wow, I fuck around with crypto on the side, and I could actually make this my job and build something really meaningful. About a year and a half ago, I guess. And with Ethos, one of the things that I found was I was super inspired by friend tech. I thought friend tech was super interesting. Obviously went to zero, thanks Racer. Not a lot to talk about friend tech anymore, but in the time it really captured everyone's attention. And the big thing with friend tech is it got everyone to have a little sense of accountability. You bought someone's key in someone's room, and suddenly like what you did and what you said were on chain forever. And this idea of like, oh, wait, the space does need a lot more trust and accountability. And how could we improve the entire space by introducing that concept of reputation, which is basically how the real world works. And so, yeah, like basically ethos is a culmination of like me being a trader turning into like recognizing there's a massive problem in the space to, oh, maybe Friendtech showed that we could actually solve this problem. And now I have a real product with, 15,000 users and feeling good about the last 6 months of growth for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly taking off. Maybe elaborate a little bit more on the problem that Ethos is trying to solve.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is the crypto is a wild west. When you think about the state of nature of crypto, it is very much like more. You're better off being the person robbing the train than being the person that's like an upstanding citizen. The quote is like morals are expensive in Web3. Like having morals means that you have a lot of opportunity costs that you've lost. And so I believe that in Web3 and in crypto, we have to push past this concept of kind of, being what most people believe is just scam and fraud all the way up and down to becoming a reputable place where we can trust people we interact with, trust people that we listen to on the timeline, understand more about who each other are, how credible they are, and why we should listen to them. And so at the end of the day, it's solving the problem that there's like $10 billion every year that's lost to fraud, whether it be a rug pull or a phishing link or whatever it might be. That is a lot of money that comes out of traders' hands. And we want to like introduce this concept of reputation in a very Web3 first way.
So how is reputation represented on Ethos? So I've got the page goes in the stream.
Yeah, so there's a few ways. First off, we like most people that have tried to solve this in the past use things like on-chain history. Okay, this guy, he minted a CryptoPunk, or he has 100 ETH of volume on OpenSea or something. And what we felt like is you really needed that concept of social proof, or the concept of like, hey, some other person says this person is reputable. Hey, some other person is willing to like put money against this person's name. And so the definition of reputation on Ethos is pretty exhaustive in terms of the things that we put into it. But I would say most of it is driven by what people say about each other, and backed by economic security, where if you vouch for someone, you actually put your money where your mouth is. If you go onto Ethos Markets, which is what you're looking at here, you're actually like speculating on someone's trust. And so we use a bunch of different things that go into like, mostly boils down to like skin in the game and where did the like sentiment come from? Who did it come from?
Got it. So combination of, you can stake capital with someone and actually bet effectively on their reputation, and you can leave reviews, which I feel like is probably the majority of where users are interacting with the app. I'm curious. So how many months in is it now? Is it 3 months?
6. Yeah, we started in January.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Congrats. And it's been a big run. Are you surprised with how it's been used?
I would say happily surprised, I guess. Like there are some things that have not surprised me in terms of how people are trying to kind of gamify it. Like if you make a metric, people will try to turn that metric into their opportunity. And so I would say we're seeing all the things I expected to see. I'm happy to see them. It means that we've had some success, right? Like it means that people are starting to care about the Ethos score a little bit, so much so that they're willing to invest time in it. And I mean, yeah, like if I'm being totally honest with you, if you go back to January before we launched, you're like, I think people will care. I think people will like it. I think there's this flywheel of like human psychology and wanting to care about your score and wanting to look reputable. And maybe you can unlock something for doing that later because other teams recognize that you're reputable. Like, I think it'll work, but we had no idea, man. Like you really don't know going into it. So pleasantly surprised with where we are and very happy and feeling good about the opportunity for us going forward.
If you could snap your fingers and change one thing about the Ethos ecosystem, about its user base, about its adoption, what would it be?
Oh, Man, you know, the thing I think about the most probably is like, what is the perception from third parties that have never used ethos? And usually, like, you're showing the leaderboard now, most people will log in and they'll be like, wait, who the hell is this guy? Why is this guy the most reputable artist or whatever, right? One of the things that we have been working really hard on is how do you leverage existing credibility to some extent and put it into the algorithm, so that when you or someone else looks at the leaderboard, or which is just for fun really, but you go look at like X copy's profile, you're not like, what the hell? Why is he like known instead of reputable? That doesn't make any sense. So it's like the data normalization, getting to the point where we have enough data where like it actually makes sense why people have certain scores that they have. I think once people start figuring out that the scores are kind of more normalized, then they can more easily become kind of the source of truth of what reputation means.
I think that makes sense. And that's kind of where my head is at, right? I think the product and the vision makes a ton of sense. Where I struggle as a user when I come look at rankings is like Vitalik should be number one.
Right.
Right. And instead it's someone that I loosely know from crypto Twitter who has probably been very active.
On ethos for sure. Yeah,
exactly. So I guess, how do you fix that? Like, do you want to fix that? Like, does that mean
of course, yeah. We're actually fixing this a little bit this week. So we have ethos improvement proposals where we change the score and we let people vote on it. And one of the things that we're introducing probably this week is the concept of like your existing followers. And so if Vitalik has a significant number or ranks in the top 1% of all what we call reputable followers, then we actually were going to give him a significant boost on his credibility score, which will help normalize a lot of the data across the board. I'm really excited for that. I think the other thing I'd push back on is like, in a binary example of Vitalik, it's easy to be like, well, Vitalik should be at the top. But then once you get into the ranking algorithm, it was like, okay, well, should Kobe be second? Like you will meet people that argue that Kobe should absolutely not be second. And you're like, wait, why? And then you get to like 10th and you're like, well, how would I ever like pick X over Y? And so like the ranking problem is really tough.
It is tough. And I don't have the answer myself. But I do think it matters, right? So one of the goals for this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is this is a primitive that will be built on and incorporated in other InfoFi apps, SocialFi apps. And I think we're already seeing that, right? I feel like I saw one, the name is escaping me, but it's going to combine on-chain financial activity with your ethos score, with maybe your Kaido yaps. And as that happens, like we need this, I mean, we want it to be accurate, right? And I guess what does accurate mean? And
yeah,
I'm talking in circles. It's a hard problem to solve.
No, I think another thing that you're kind of talking around that's harder to understand, and if I go back to the question of like, what would you snap your fingers about, is like education in this space is really hard to like get everyone on the same page about it. But a good example is global versus local reputation. So someone might be globally reputable, like Vitalik, but there are people on the top of the leaderboard who I find very reputable that you've never heard of. And it's not necessarily wrong that they are reputable if they have that local reputation. So like global versus local is also a tricky thing. To be honest, like I think the leaderboard is a little bit misleading for a lot of people. It's really meant to be something fun. The concept that Ethos is really solving, in my opinion, is identifying those who are reputable rather than identifying in a perfect stack ranking how reputable they are.
I guess my feedback would be, you didn't ask for it. Or I mean, you kind of asked for it.
No, I did. Yeah, I totally did.
For it. I feel like the global needs to be weighted heavier somehow than the local. And I think part of the reason I say that is someone might be locally very ethical and reputable, but it's easier because the stakes are lower, because they probably haven't been approached by 100 KOL managers to go launch, to tweet about this token, right? And the bigger you are, the more opportunities you get to do that. So if two people are equally ethical, but one has 200,000 followers and another one has 200,
Mhm.
I think I can make a strong argument that the person with 200,000 followers should be significantly more
Yeah, it's
higher rate on the leaderboard.
no, I think it's like they're more hardened almost. Like they've been through the like, oh, you've been tested. Like we'll send you tokens, we'll send you equity, whatever. Like now just tweet about it, right? And the people with 200 followers have never experienced that, and they might fall for that. I think it's interesting to think about it in terms of like reputation or credibility backed by or associated, attached to influence, but also just think about it from like more simple terms of, well, someone is launching a new project and maybe it's someone that you know, but no one else really knows them. And you want to help like support them and show them, like have them have a good showing on Ethos overall. Like now people have the avenue to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have global reputation or any amount of influence or attention either, right? They might just be a builder. But if you had, backing from the right people, you might decide, oh, I'm definitely going to participate in that. In fact, that's how we make a lot of decisions in Web3 anyways with trading is like, did X, Y, or Z invest, right? Did Paradigm invest? Oh, Paradigm invested? Hell yeah, I'm going to treat this thing seriously. So, I'd like to think that at some point we can actually kind of lower that bar of like what is required to give other people reputation. It's not like there's a high concentration of people in that global reputation category, the people that have influence. And I actually really want to uplift people, maybe not because they're going to go launch something, even if it's just like, I want to do like an over-the-counter trade with this guy, such that local reputation can be recognized still too.
Makes sense. Logan, I know you've
Yeah.
been on this as well.
Hey, sir. Interesting to see all this and learn a little bit more about it, especially as somebody who cares so much about reputation and is not a very big follower like Tyler or something like that. I was curious about how you think about use of the platform for, like in a proactive versus reactive nature. Like, one thing that I was thinking about is like comparing it to like Yelp, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like thinking about looking up a restaurant and sort of trying to understand if it's good or not.
Right.
Like, how do you think about that and what the actual user interaction looks like in a proactive versus reactive nature?
Yeah, so great question. In most web app or building web app thinking, the philosophy is that it's called a 99 and 1 rule. And it's representing percentages of how users use your product. For something like Reddit or something like Yelp, or really any way that you're kind of like searching the internet, 90% of your users are lurkers, are people that are just getting value by like seeing the score somewhere or reading up on something, just like you would look at, a pizza shop. 9% are more of your active users who might comment or engage, or they might participate in some way, but they're not like a core contributor, right? So 9%. And then you have like 1% of people that are like core contributors, right? These are the people that you go to Yelp and they're like, I'm the Yelp certified pastor local guide or whatever. You're like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like that, you expect about 1% of your users to be that like daily active, like, but also feel really opinionated and want to help people understand what pizza place to go to or what KOL to trust on the timeline. And we've seen that split effectively. Like we've got about, I think it's around 6,000 daily actives right now. And the ratio of that, not perfectly goes in, it's more around like, let's say 5%. We have about 100,000 monthly active random lurkers. So anyways, trying to explain, like, I actually only, like someone like you or Tyler, I wouldn't expect you to use it every day, right? Like you have to feel very opinionated and desired to like share your opinion to do that. But maybe you log in once a month and you're like, oh yeah, I want to support this guy. Or like, oh yeah, like this guy's launching a new project and I really like it. I want to show my support for it, help him out. I feel like those numbers are actually a little bit bigger for us. We do have more contributors than a normal 99-1 rule, but that's kind of what we're targeting, to be frank.
I'm curious, sir, maybe a quick side question, but you mentioned the monthly actives, the daily actives. You probably have a decent amount of CT like demographic data at this point. Any takeaways? Like, is any like what?
It's so much smaller than you think it is. I mean, two things. It's so much smaller than you think it is. I've built products that have 3 million users before, like 3 million monthly active users. And it is a whole nother animal, from operations, performance, everything. And you can just feel it. They're not 3 million people on CT. There's not even close, right? I look at it like relatively, like you look at a YouTube video, you look at something else, you look at how many people are watching the stream, and you compare it to like a video game or something, and we're just tiny still. I see that in the data just so far, like how many people are getting reviewed. There's like, I think we're probably at like 30,000 unique Twitter accounts reviewed. So not just people on the platform. It just means that the pie is small right now. My other takeaway, what was I going to say? I think that's really my big takeaway, to be honest, is just a little bit smaller than you think it is. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is the niches are significant in crypto. Like I knew this always, but like if you think about like the Ethereum aligned NFT trader versus the like Solana focused trencher, like I have worked really hard to onboard as many people as I can to Ethos. And every time I do it, I'll go talk to a new like Discord group, or I'll go talk to another community I've never heard of before. And you're like, there are people in X country that are really passionate about ordinals. What the fuck? Like, what is this? Like, and then you go and you're like, talk to a Solana group, and you're like, oh my God, they don't give a shit about reputation, and for a lot of reasons, or in a lot of cases. But like, yeah, they're still interested and intrigued. And it's really interesting to see how like siloed those are. And it shows up on sort of the social graphs, right? Like, oh, like Tyler and everyone else that he knows review each other, or he's reviewed by a lot of people that share these characteristics, ETH aligned NFT trader kind of thing. It's just, it couldn't be more different, the kind of social groupings that exist out there. It's weird and fascinating.
That makes sense. I've seen it to a degree. There are very distinct cohorts of people doing different things. And the Venn diagram doesn't really overlap.
There's not a lot of overlap. There's not. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's because Twitter does act a little bit like an echo chamber, especially if you only use your For You. Like if you only use your For You feed, you're really only going to see the same like 200 accounts a day.
You're not going to get the ordinals.
Yeah, you're not going to get, but it's like me as a trader, I'm like, yo, this is actually really cool to like see a group of people that's talking about ordinals today. And you're like, who the fuck is talking about ordinals today, man? Like, I get it, but it's also kind of mind boggling when you get out of your like comfort zone.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, 1 minute or two left here. I am curious. So like, where are you going to take this thing?
Yeah, I mean, my belief, like year-long goal, right, is next summer, basically everything that you do in crypto is at least touching your Ethos score in some way. Whether that be, oh, how someone like hires a KOL, or oh, how someone interprets someone on the timeline, to, oh, maybe like you go to trade on Uniswap v3 and it looks up your Ethos score and it gives you better trading fees because you're a real person. Well, why would they do that? Because there's like 99% spam everywhere, right? When a new app goes to pay for your fees, they look at your Ethos score. Our app pays for fees. We already like say, if you have a high Ethos score, we'll pay your fees. If you don't, we won't. I want Ethos to be everywhere you go. And we have a Chrome extension. It is already apparent in Twitter very easily with the Chrome extension, but we have it in OpenSea. We have it, we're going to launch it on Zora this week. We have it on Farcaster, on Kaido. Like, it really is meant to go everywhere, whether that be on the front end, your ability to interpret information based on that, or more on the back end of like, I, as an Ethos reputable person, get more out of it because we've removed 99% of the slop and the bots and the bullshit out of the equation. So in a year, I mean, that's what I think. And to be honest, I'm pretty much exclusively focused on crypto right now. But if you think more long-term, this reputation system is something that has much wider effects, can solve the exact same problems, whether it's, I've had this problem with trading Pokemon cards, buying and selling Pokemon cards on the internet, or watches, or whatever it might be. Like, every anonymous interaction on the internet requires reputation. And so there's a lot of room for growth, I think, for us beyond the next year kind of thing.
And there are also Black Mirror episodes about social scores.
100%
to their limits, right? So the bigger you grow, the more important.
Yeah, I've made the argument that the Black Mirror episode is really interesting and almost important. Like, I'm leaning into it only because crypto is so much the Wild West. Like, you don't need the Black Mirror episode for your daily interactions, like with talking to the guy mowing your lawn or whatever. Like, that's not even close. everything we do in crypto is financialized. So you have to have that. So I try to lean into it, to be honest.
Makes sense. Well, this has been a great discussion. Well, I'll be excited to check back in a few months down the line, as you progress against the vision. It certainly is a lofty one, but
yeah,
we'll be watching along and rooting for you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for jumping on. Well, folks, that is going to be our show. No YEET action today. We are going to do double YEET spins tomorrow, and we are going to be back to our normal process. So we won't be doing the leaderboard picks here on the weekdays this week. So we will be back with those tomorrow. But as for today, that is going to be it. I want to thank all of our listeners. As always, I want to thank our co-host, Logan. Thanks for jumping on today. Thanks to Serp for joining us. Thanks to our partners as well. We will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Till then, go make it a beautiful day. Goodbye.